This is the December 23rd, a Christmas special edition of the PFF Forecast, and I think this is the best one we've ever had. This is awesome. We have Steve Kornacki. He is on the pod. He spends like 45 minutes with us. It's awesome. So you'll want to stick around for that. We are going to go through the slate, pick our lock of the week. There's a lot of good games. So let's rock. All right. You ready? Are you ready for this?
Dude, well,
Christmas come early.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the La Tech, whatever Bulldogs or whatever they're called, not getting me any closer to more Christmas gifts here. But
Christmas come early is also what James Harden says, like for the 40 days before Christmas.
Stop. Dude, you don't have kids yet, but you have to when you have kids, whatever.
Yeah.
I hope that we're still like talking, because I want to be like the Christmas is actually 2 months long, and then the birthdays are like 2 month intervals. You know, like
I'm aware. So I have 3 younger sisters and a beautiful girlfriend, so I'm well aware of how long birthdays take.
True. Your sisters are all like significantly younger than you too, kind of. So
right.
like,
we're spaced out. So I've done the whole thing.
You noticed it.
The month of princess.
It's
stuff.
unbelievable. Yeah. Well, and I didn't realize this one. This was a blind spot in my own life. Halloween is another one. Like my girls had 3 separate costumes each, and they're all like I mean, you're bribing them to like.
But that sticks. That's just true of every person until they're like 25. And if you're like,
no, not me. We did not do.
Really?
I figured you would be in the same boat as me.
No, I love Halloween.
Yeah, I did too, but it got taken away from me.
Yeah, that's the reason that I'm so resistant to children.
Yeah. I went trick or treating none times from like 6th grade until like 1 year in college. I actually did it like after I left the house. But
yeah, I don't go trick or treating, but like I really enjoyed a good Halloween costume, especially if you can involve a group. Is
well, that was the one
fantastic.
year I went as my buddy in grad school went as I went as a quarterback. He went as a head coach, and we went as the difference between the Vikings and the Super Bowl.
And that's how we'll transition.
And it's the same. Like, that's how we'll stood the test of time.
That's how we'll transition into this week's slate, which is fantastic. And we're going to start with the Christmas Day or Christmas night-ish game, which is the Minnesota Vikings facing the New Orleans Saints. So last week we had a Saturday teaser, and it was never in doubt. Never in doubt. Drew Lock had no chance.
The Smock Monster tried to make it.
The Smock Monster really
he tried
did
to, because I texted you. I go, if we lose the teaser on like a missed 2-point conversion.
The Smock Monster. I forgot about that.
Tentilla, you got to make like a figurine.
I need a line of smocks that I can spit on during the podcast. Okay, Vikings Saints. The Vikings are. I think we nailed this one on Sunday, right? Because we were like, it could be 6.5, it could be 7. I think it briefly got out to 7.5. I think in most places it's 7, but a little bit of juice towards the Vikings side of things. Are we setting ourselves up to bet on Kirk Cousins? That's how I feel.
I like this bet a lot, actually, and that's my problem. Is like I don't think. The Vikings,
when is the last time that you liked betting on the Vikings a lot? I honestly can't remember it.
I've bet on them a couple times of late. One of them was the Panthers. They were -3. I thought that was short. I did bet on them against the Bears, and we had them against Tampa. Like I actually think over the last few weeks, I've like thought the Vikings were a little bit undervalued.
Let me make a case, and I think this is going to rub some people the wrong way, but it needs to be said. What do we always talk about? The better quarterback getting points. Now, it takes a lot for me to sit here and to tell you that Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback getting points against Drew Brees. But the simple fact is he is right now.
Yeah.
And he has 121 pass rating from a clean pocket, one of the most stable things in quarterback play. That's better. Breeze is good, but that's better than Breeze. He is grading significantly better than Drew Brees. He has a significantly better big-time throw to turnover-worthy play rate than Drew Brees. Drew Brees is making turnover-worthy plays at a rate we just really haven't seen before. And this may be the most important thing, he has receivers that are getting open.
Yeah. My concern, aside from the obvious Kirk meltdowns and the Vikings, they still have something to play for, so that's actually a thing. My concern is really that again, I'm making a defensive concern here. That's why I probably will take Minnesota. The Saints are very talented where the Vikings are weak on offense. So like Riley Reif is the same caliber of left tackle as Eric Fisher. And Eric Fisher got absolutely ragdolled by Trey Hendrickson. Like they had six guys, that had 4 or more pressures.
You're worried that the Saints...
I'm worried that the clean pockets won't materialize for Cousins.
There.
Yeah. And the Vikings are going to try to run the football and all this nonsense. And like that's what I'm kind of worried about, is that the Vikings won't take advantage of, I think, the structural advantage that they've had. And that's really been their problem, right? Granted, they played a defense that's about as good as the Saints last week, and they put up 27, or 24. I can't remember exactly how many they put up, but so maybe I'm overthinking this. But I do think on the other side of the ball, the Vikings are terrible on defense, but the Saints don't do anything that's going to.
Well, they don't have Michael Thomas.
They don't have weapons.
It's going to be feed Alvin Kamara.
The Vikings don't have Kendricks or Barr out there. I mean, there are some really good reasons why this.
There's a reason why the Saints are 7-point favorites.
Yeah.
I understand that. I would like to keep it in consideration. Justin Jefferson, should he be the Rookie of the Year?
Well, he won't be, but he should be.
Okay, I agree.
Herbert has played some really good games in prime time. He almost beat the Saints on the road. He just played a really good game against the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. I can't remember which one.
Thursday.
And so those high-profile efforts are really, and being a quarterback, are really going to elevate him, but he shouldn't. I mean, Justin Jefferson has been everything.
Justin Jefferson,
everything except Stephon Diggs and him could have been together. But
right. This blew my mind. He's the 4th most valuable wide receiver according to wins above replacement this year.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Not because he hasn't been, you were like, oh, he hasn't been that good, but because wins above replacement, you need to get targets.
Yeah, it's volume based.
And he's just so damn good.
Yeah, he's not targeted that much. He's very AJ Brownian in his rookie year, right? Like where they're not giving him as many targets, and he's even performing. Like he might break Randy Moss's rookie receiving record, despite Moss was the number 3 wide receiver that year.
Despite it all.
So.
All right, let's keep that one in consideration. Let's move on to Saturday. Where do you want to? Should we just?
Well, so these have moved, right? So we had Arizona minus, I believe, 3.5 on our picks. It's -5. That's a pretty good movement. Not through 4 is a key-ish number, so that's a good move in our direction. Did we have Tampa on a teaser? I want to say.
I believe so.
And now that number is not teasable anymore, so that's a good value there. So those ones you kind of just want to sit out, right? So we had Tampa at -1, so it was -7. Now it's 9.5. The one that has moved away from us a little bit is this Miami Dolphins one. And you know why I think that is, George?
Please.
We talked about this. We talked about this with Steve later. The Raiders, the Dolphins can see the playoffs in their
right directly in front of them. Yeah.
And I think that the betting markets we saw this actually. Teams that are eliminated from the playoffs or mostly eliminated are very, very good against the spread against teams that need a win to make the playoffs. Like they're overvalued tremendously. And so we have the Raiders +8.5. I don't think we see value on Raiders +3, but I do think if you're inclined to want to bet a game like that, you should bet a game like that because there's probably value on the Raiders here.
Don't you think, though, that there's, in a normal situation for the Raiders, that's definitely true. But with Marcus Mariota, there's so much variance.
There's so much uncertainty. Right.
What do you expect from Mariota? Because
I think he'll be great. Here's why. The Dolphins can't rush the passer. What was Mariota's? Remember that 9-sack game he took against the Ravens? Yeah, but they're going to blitz the
living hell out of him.
Yeah, but it's not like the Raiders don't have talent on the outside. Is Ruggs playing? I think that's probably a good question. But
I can't believe. I mean, the Miami Dolphins have a very, very strong coverage unit, and I'm worried.
But don't you think some of that is buoyed by noisy things like turnovers?
Sure. I mean, the extent to how good it actually is, yes. I don't see Ruggs on the injury report.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so that would be my only relent there. But I mean, our model does show a little bit of value on the Niners. I don't know if I really want to go there because
with Beathard
or Mullins or whomever's playing. Is it Beathard?
Mullins is on IR.
So it's Beathard.
Yeah.
Jeez. Who's the backup there? Is it Rosen?
I believe so.
Wow. The chosen Rosen.
Frozen Rosen.
I probably need to lay off that for the same reason you're laying off Vegas because of the uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. I struggle to find ways to bet these games, which is kind of sad. Here are the things that I do like. Tampa Bay, Detroit, over 54. I think is interesting. In the same way that watching like a train wreck is interesting. I don't think it'll be easy. I think it'll be frustrating. Both these teams will run the ball too much.
Yeah.
But whenever Matt Stafford plays on a non-Sunday, I just feel like actually when he plays on a Sunday too, I just feel like crazy shit's gonna happen. And so I think crazy shit will happen here. The Detroit Lions also, you know what they don't do? Rush the passer, which means Tom Brady is gonna be staying in a clean pocket the whole darn time. And they win. So here's be an interesting one. So if Minnesota beats New Orleans on Friday, does that give Tampa Bay more?
Yeah, of course it does.
Right, it gives them a little more incentive. So
right, that's also a built-in thing there where the problem is like Tampa's defense is overrated. There are people that are so ticked off.
Every defense is overrated.
There are people that are so ticked off that Fred Warner made the Pro Bowl over David and White.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's ridiculous.
Fred Warner's fantastic. Okay, let's move off of Saturday, and let's go to Sunday. Where do you want to start on Sunday? A couple interesting games here. Should we get the good game of the early slate out of the way? Let's do that.
Yeah. So I like laying the points at the Colts.
Colts are a 1.5 point favorite now in Pittsburgh. You know what I learned from the past month? I called the Steelers the most overrated team in the NFL. People were very angry, which is great. Like, that's fantastic. I love that. The passion that like fans have is awesome, right? And then, players want to get after me. That's cool too. But what I learned from this is that if you're doing your job, then you're not wasting your time yelling at other people. You're like trying to be better yourself. So maybe if the Steelers players had spent more time actually looking at and using math to identify the fact that they weren't that great of a team and they'd focus on getting better, maybe they wouldn't have had this awful slide. Just saying, maybe.
Well, but don't you think...
Maybe. Now, probably not because they weren't very good at quarterback, and that is obviously true. But
don't you think, though, that insecurity breeds that? Like knowing you're
not that good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I didn't. That's why I loved it. I was great that like Bud Dupree wanted to quote tweet me and call me a computer geek. That's awesome. That's funny. It's engaging. I butthurt about it. No, man.
Yeah,
Why? But for that very reason, I am all about the Colts this week.
here's what I'm going to say, and then you can quote me. I don't give, and if Steve does, if Steve doesn't want to be associated with this, that's fine. But I'm gonna bring out the thing that I said the last time I picked the Colts. Steelers are soft.
You don't see me disagreeing with you.
Here's the thing. I just was on the Buffalo radio station. They were asking like what I thought about the AFC teams, and I said, I think Buffalo and I think Tennessee could beat Kansas City. I don't think the Colts could beat Kansas City. I think the Colts can beat the shit out of bad teams, and I think the Colts can beat the shit out of teams that are soft like this. Do you think for a second that DeForest Buckner and Justin Houston are going to sit there while Big Ben throws passes in the come on?
You call They're looking at passes.
They're looking at Big Ben in the pocket, and they're looking like
they're licking their lips.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You think is Darius Leonard playing? You think Darius Leonard?
When are we gonna have a conversation about Big Ben's lack of core strength? No,
But or even like Juju. Like, do you think Xavier Rhodes is going to really want to fuck around with any of this shit?
No, I mean, Juju hasn't really been a concern for teams for a while. Deontay and Claypool are the better receivers like that.
But they play Juju all the time.
Right. I mean, it's the dancing on the logo
But
thing.
Is Deontay's like a volume guy. He's like the Allen Iverson of wide receivers right now.
I love it. I mean, here's the. So I'm going to throw some stats. Let me give you some
Steelers
data.
are soft, and that's why I'm taking the.
Let me give you some
Colts.
data here. The Pittsburgh Steelers on first and second down rank in the mid-20s in basically every single metric you can slice it, and has been that way for a while. They are 32nd out of 32 teams in our opponent-adjusted offensive ranking. Is that good? No, it's not. It's not.
cheeks.
It's not very good. So, Big Ben also fresh off a 25.1 PFF grade. It's the lowest single game grade for a quarterback this season. So the crazy thing is, people were asking me earlier this week, do I worry about Phillip Rivers playing in the cold outside? And my answer is no. I worry about Big Ben playing in the cold outside. Like, Phillip Rivers, say what you want about him, but he's been better than Ben Roethlisberger has been this year, and the Colts have been better than the Steelers. And so that's why, as a short road favorite, I will take the Indianapolis Colts as well. I'd like to consider this one for the lock of the week.
Same here. Okay, here's one, and I'm going to bring it up because
you hate me. I know what game this is.
no, actually, you don't.
Oh,
I don't know though. I can't.
just do it. Just say yes.
Philadelphia -2.5 in Dallas.
I love it.
So personally, and again, this I'm getting all of my stuff on the. I have a ton of Washington football team to win the NFC East futures.
Yeah, we both do.
So I'd really like for Philadelphia to lose and for the Giants to lose this week, because that way I get paid out. I don't even have to I don't have to sweat out Week 17 for the NFC.
beautiful.
Well, actually, yeah. Well, I would have to, because Dallas would still have to lose Week 7.
True.
Yeah, it's weird, right? But like, I do think the path to the Washington football team winning, if they lose this week, is for the Eagles, because the Eagles are the better of these two teams. However, Dallas has been the classic zigzag spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
They played okay against Washington, got blown out. They played okay against the Ravens, eventually got blown out. Then they come in, play really well against the Bengals, play really well against the Niners. Everybody's gravitating towards them a little bit, right? What's this spread just a couple weeks ago?
With Wentz?
Well, not with Wentz, with Hurts. Let's assume everything we know about Hurts.
Man, a couple weeks ago. I mean, before the Cowboys won 2 straight games.
Yeah.
I don't know, 3.5.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. It's certainly not bettable.
Here's my thought on this game, and I've got some things that I want to see where you are on the Hurts meter, because he's way better than Wentz. That's kind of been the whole thing here, but where he is in terms of like a really viable quarterback, 32% of his passes have been uncatchable, which is the highest rate in the NFL. But what he brings to you from a rushing perspective is massive, and that's why the Eagles' offense has done a complete 180. With Wentz as the quarterback, they ranked 30th. That's third worst in the NFL in EPA per play on offense, and 30th on first and second down EPA per play. With Hurts as the quarterback, they've been 13th overall and 14th on first and second down. So there's a dramatic difference, and the big difference is coming not only from him not taking as many sacks, but also from the explosive plays. They're averaging about 10 plays of 15-plus yards over the past couple of games, where it was 7 with Wentz. And he's just better throwing the ball from a clean pocket, 112 pass rating. So there are all these good things with Hurts, but I'm still worried about the accuracy.
Yeah, and also Dallas, their offense, the Eagles' defense is garbage, as we saw the other day, as far as in the secondary, and Dallas has good weapons. So that could be a problem. Okay.
That said, I think the Eagles win the NFC East.
I did put a small bet on them at plus 600.
I think they're going to do it. I think they're the best team in the NFC East. I think Jalen Hurts is still – I said this 3 weeks ago, and people wanted to kill me for it. Even my beloved Mike Renner disagreed with me, which, is good because he knows what he's doing. But Jalen Hurts is the guy you want to bet on.
I made 2 futures bets this week. One of them, I got a really good number in Indy plus 125 to win the South. Win-win. Tennessee loses to Green Bay. It's their division. I also took some Philadelphia plus 600. I feel like that's a good hedge against some of the I agree. Some of the football team. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not taking the Giants, okay?
Okay, I'm not doing that either.
I know that there's probably some value there historically. I'm not taking Jacksonville.
No.
We don't even know who their quarterback is.
Jacksonville ain't fucking this up, okay? Jacksonville is getting Trevor Lawrence.
Tennessee.
It's like, so here's what Jacksonville is. Jacksonville has been in a race for the hottest girl in the school with a guy that had a massive lead, right? He had it all. He had money. He had, he was better looking. He had a nicer car, like all of these things. He had better game, all this stuff. And he made a massive mistake, right? He accidentally hooked up with another chick at a party. Jacksonville ain't messing this up. They've got one shot, okay? They're not winning a game or trying to win a game or coming close to winning a game. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You
don't get that opportunity and blow it. You just don't.
Yeah. I don't think it's as big of a lock, but I don't know. Look, I'm not making the lock of the week Jags plus 300. That's the first one.
I ain't doing that either.
So, but here's one. So, and then in Tennessee, we liked Tennessee early in the week at plus 4. It's now plus 3. We seem to be on the right mark there.
Here's a question for you. If it was 3.5,
I'd take Tennessee.
I'm with you there, and I kind of like Tennessee plus 155 against the money line, and I love Aaron Rodgers, and it's all about the other things around him not being as good. I think at plus 3.5, I'd consider Tennessee as the lock of the week. I'd certainly.
And I don't think you can take Buffalo. I don't think you can take New England here plus the 7. I just think that
the motivation is
not there.
Okay. So you know who we haven't talked about yet?
We haven't talked about Atlanta. Doug Farrar, our friend on Twitter, said he thinks something weird's going to happen.
This is the game Atlanta wins.
Well, here's the thing.
Atlanta wins.
I believe if New Orleans wins on Friday, Kansas City has sewn up the 1 seed because of the strength. The only leak in their entire path to the 1 seed is a 13-3 finish with both Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and the strength of victory becomes. And I believe the Saints winning topples over strength of victory for both those teams. So there's also a chance that this number might just be 6 by Sunday. I've never picked against the Chiefs as my lock of the week, and that's the problem.
You have a sickness. 10.5 is too many. It's too many. It is.
I do agree. I'd be willing. I think it was 11.5 early. I do think there's been some money on Atlanta. Obviously the meltdown factor. Look, the meltdown factor with Atlanta is just so immense, though. That's the thing I don't. But there's the Raheem Morris. There's, he's trying obviously to win. Mm-hmm. But we could see Chad Henne in the third quarter of this game. I'm telling. But then of course the Falcons lost twice to Taysom Hill. That's my issue.
Well, we're going to be sitting here on Sunday. Mahomes has 6 touchdowns entering the fourth quarter, and we're just fuck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. and Matt Ryan,
and the Falcons are out there running the ball on first down.
Matt Ryan played a tremendous game on Sunday, and it was still not enough. Matt Ryan has been oscillating between the worst quarterback I've ever seen and the best quarterback I've seen every week. And last week he was good. This is outdoors.
Zigzag is what you're saying.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying look, I think Indy is a better bet.
Yeah, I'm gonna put. Actually, I bet the Falcons at 11.5.
There aren't any. So all the teasers were available early in the week. They're all protected now. Browns, Giants. Well, I guess you could tease Houston down to -2, but the Bengals are hot. You don't want to bet the Bengals. Bet against the Bengals right now. They're hot streak. You could go Chicago again. I mean, I guess the teaser to play is Chicago -1.5 and Dallas +8.5. That's the teaser that you want if you're doing the mechanical. Or, okay, here's one. I think I found it.
You know how excited I get when you find a teaser.
Bears -1.5 Bills -1, Monday Night Football.
Is there any chance that game doesn't matter for the Bills? No.
No.
Oh my God! You want to bet on Josh Allen winning against Bill Belichick? I mean, I think you do. This is the time.
Okay, well, how about this? Saints. Well, see, but we don't show value on the. You don't like the Saints.
I don't like the Saints. I don't like the Saints.
All these other ones are protected. I mean, you could go Deshaun Watson for the nth straight week. He did cover last week. The Bengals are garb.
Oh,
so what if you go? What if you went what if you went Texans Bears?
I like that one a little bit more.
I like that one too. I mean, the Bengals, dude. Ryan Finley threw for 90 yards, man. This is not going to be like a. Okay, so we have two, I think, candidates here.
Yep.
We have Houston -2, Chicago -1.5. What we're doing is betting that really the Steelers do suck, and the Bengals didn't actually win that game on Monday night. They just played. Or we can bet Colts -1.5 and just bet explicitly that the Steelers suck.
Or we could take the Vikings.
I don't hate taking the Vikings at +7. I don't, but
You know what?
Well, let's do it. Let's take 2 games. Let's do 2 games.
No, fuck that. It's Christmas.
All 3?
All 3.
Round them out. Vikings plus. Let's buy it, okay? Vikings. We will record this. Vikings +7.5 -125.
You love to see it.
Houston -2. Chicago -1.5.
Tease me.
Okay.
Chris, you know what you want to do? You want to wake up.
Let me make sure that -125 is there, so we don't.
You want to wake up on Sunday.
Yeah, -125 for the Vikings at +7.5.
To a little teaser, and then the third, you save the best for last. The Colts in Pittsburgh -1.5.
Yeah, we're gonna stay away from the Falcons. If you want death, go Falcons.
Join me. All right, we've got Steve Kornacki. Let's get it. All righty, this has been a couple weeks in the making. We're very excited. The great Steve Kornacki, and I have prepared a list of things that you have accomplished. You may know him for his work as a TV host on NBC News, author of The Red and the Blue, the 1990s and the Birth of Political Tribalism, also named one of People's Sexiest Men Alive in 2020, and very recently, a coworker of ours via Sunday Night Football and Football Night in America, where you may have seen the chart throb in action.
And not only this, Steve, one of our coworkers, a higher up in the company, slacked me today a picture of his wife's jacket with an I vote sticker, but instead of saying I voted, it says I love Steve Kornacki. Yeah. So it was sort of like out of the blue. I don't even know how he found out we were doing this.
I tweeted about it.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, people are way more. No one listens to our podcast for us, obviously, right? We're trying to get guests on, but I have never had my girlfriend reach out to me and go, "I'm actually going to listen to this podcast." So welcome.
Thank you. I'm a little that I tell people that People Magazine thing is proof that there was voter fraud in 2020. Is the only possible explanation for that, and I'm as mystified as anyone at some of the stuff you're describing there. But I'm very flattered, and I've enjoyed working with you guys the last few weeks. This has been great fun for me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
That was going to be my first question. So, was it hard making that transition from reporting on the presidential election to NFL football, where the final scores are actually accepted by both teams?
Can I tell you what a relief? We go through 1 week, we get the results, and then we move on to the next week, and we don't linger. And I've enjoyed getting to do that for the last couple of weeks. The good news for me when it comes to the election stuff, just from my own kind of selfish standpoint, is, we got to I'd say it was about 11:45 in the morning that Saturday of election week when Pennsylvania was called, put Biden over 270. I had not really slept much that week, so I called my boss up. As soon as we announced it, I said, "Look, I got the car to the destination. Now let me go." And so I said, "You guys deal with whatever's coming now. I'll get ready for," as it turned out, I'll get ready for Georgia. That's my next big election project. And in between, get to do the playoffs.
And so you're doing the Georgia, the runoff, That's awesome. And usually that's only, I mean, that the possibility is only one there, but we had the special election with Warnock and Loeffler. That's sweet. I'm looking forward to that. And that'll be a fun predict it sort of night on the betting markets and things like that.
Oh, yeah, the betting markets will be interesting that night, as they were election night.
Yeah.
That's how Eric and I consumed. We were watching, Eric and I are lucky in that we get to cover football from the football side of things, but also from like a predictive, and the betting markets are a very interesting thing to follow. On election night, it was one of the most bonkers nights ever in terms of where the betting markets were. Were you aware of any of that at all?
So no, I've heard about it after, but I mean, is this the right version? Like around, I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m. It spiked to Trump was heavily favored, and then swung back. I don't know.
It was even earlier than that, Steve. Like at night. Yeah. So
was it when Florida was called?
Yeah, I do a podcast with Pinnacle Sports, which is a sports book out, overseas, and their trader messaged me at 9. So he messaged me at 7 when everything was happening and said, we're getting a ton of Biden money, we're getting a ton of Trump money, but our internals say Biden's going to win, right? So it was like they're all they can't get enough people to bet on Biden at minus 210, minus 230. So a 65% chance to win, break even, basically. And by the time it got to 9 o'clock, he messaged me and said, it's over. We think Trump's won. So they're literally wow. And I'm thinking to myself, how have you guys? Because you guys have thought it through, right? The Red Mirage was what it was called, where they had sort of all the votes from the in person, but not the it was the exact opposite where we live in Ohio, where they counted the mail-in ballots early, so it looked like Biden was going to win, and then Trump came back and won the state handily. It was the exact opposite, but all these sports books had Trump at minus 700, Biden at a 15 to 20% chance, and it was crazy. And then the funny part was, I remember going to bed at about 2, and it was about even money at that point. And then you wake up the next day and it's about Biden minus 200, and then middle of the day it's minus 500. It's the market took so long to be rational. And guys like you, Stephen, Silver, and all those guys are well, look, the path for a Biden win is pretty trivial at this point. Still, you just got to win these states. He ended up winning more than he was, predicted to win.
Yeah. Well, how unsure were you, Steve?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I'll tell you. I may not have the time straight here because my memory of this doesn't always track with the hour. But I would say 1 a.m. Election night into the next morning. I was telling my bosses here, I think Trump might win this thing.
Wow.
And it gun to my head, I'd say at about 1 a.m., give or take, I would have said Trump's going to win the election, because what I was seeing at that point was, not only had he won Florida, we knew early on, look, Florida was going to be the state where we're going to get the result election night either way.
Yep.
If Biden wins Florida, that's the ball game. Trump, though, could win Florida and stay alive. But Trump actually, he improved his margin from 2016. So I'm actually seeing movement toward Trump relative to 16. Ohio, where we'd seen polling, pretty close, like Biden having a shot. His campaign certainly thought he had a shot. Suddenly we see, getting close to the 2016 number there. I know, Arizona had been called by other net, I think Fox and the Associated Press had called Arizona. I had grave doubts about that, right away. And then I'm looking at Wisconsin at about 1 or 2 in the morning. I'm looking at Wisconsin. Trump was up. We knew there were some mail-in votes to coming in from Milwaukee overnight. I really wasn't sure there were going to be enough mail-in votes there in Milwaukee. And I'm saying to myself, look, this was the biggest lead Biden had in the swing state in the polling, Wisconsin.
Yep.
I think at 1 a.m., I'm thinking to myself, Trump's going to win the state.
Wow.
And if Trump's winning that, I think he might get Pennsylvania, And I'm thinking at that point, he's still likely to hold on to, or at least very plausibly going to hold on to Georgia. So, yeah, it was where it all changed for me was, I would say it was 5:15 in the morning. We got a huge batch of mail-in votes from Milwaukee, and it was more than enough. It put Biden up, I'd say about 7,000 statewide. And then there was a little bit more from Kenosha and from Green Bay, and it settled in 20,000 vote lead. And once I knew we had Wisconsin, all right, it was at that point from about 5 a.m. on the morning after the election, it was just an escalating, okay, Biden's got this thing. And then it still took 3 days to actually get there.
It's like the witching hour.
Well, no, we saw this almost exact thing the first week we worked together, right? Because there was the Minnesota Vikings won against Jacksonville, and the Arizona Cardinals lost handily to the LA Rams. And so for a brief second, the Vikings were in a playoff spot. And Arizona was in that 8th position, and we're saying, okay, why do we like Arizona more than Minnesota? It's like, well, the composition of what's left on the board is favorable to Arizona and not favorable to Minnesota. It was almost the exact same thing for Trump and Biden. And it's cool, like how you sort of, all these exercises are so much fun in sort of permuting the possible values of things that can happen. Because I think that's really why people are so captivated by what you do, Steve. And kind of
predicting the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And people love that,
especially when they have no idea how like things work. Right? The intricacies of this election were even more so than they were in the past. How many people did you have? Because, everyone sees you or John King on there, and it's like you've got this magical board in front of you. What's the team behind working with you, helping you, informing you? How big is that team?
Well, there's 2 layers to it. The first is, we have a thing that every network has, the decision desk.
Yep.
And, this is like the College of Cardinals. They are, very intentionally walled off from everybody. They have the ultimate kind of editorial independence. I mean, before COVID, they actually weren't in the building this year, but before COVID, like literally, if you wanted to go talk to the decision desk people on an election night, you'd go up to the doorway and there'd be a security person there who would escort you in and stand with you, like you were gonna. I don't know what they thought I was gonna do, but so there's that. And we check in with them, we compare notes with them, we get a sense of what they're thinking, when they're thinking they're going to make calls, and they are the ones who ultimately make the call with the network name on it. So there's that. And then the other thing is I've got, is my producer. His name is Adam Naboa. And it's kind of me and him. He's like 5 feet behind that board you see on TV. And he set up something that was incredibly helpful to me for the sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when we were down to a handful of states, and like every couple hours, we would get more votes from Georgia or from Pennsylvania or from Arizona or wherever. And anytime there was an update of any vote in any state, he would immediately get an alert and give it to me, telling me exactly where the county was, exactly what the vote breakdown was. Is that what we were trying to establish was what they were reporting out then in the final days was these were the mail-in votes that were, took them forever to count. What's the pace? This new batch from Pennsylvania, Biden's winning them. Is he winning them at the pace he needs to be winning them to overtake Trump statewide? And we established early on that the pace was going to be, in the low 60s. And by Wednesday or Thursday, it was clear he was winning them at like a 76% rate. So there was Biden was going to catch Trump, and you were seeing this in even Republican counties. But that was a hugely helpful thing to have because we were talking about like looking at Pennsylvania, millions of votes cast. Suddenly there's an update of like 3,000 new votes come in. And I knew right away exactly which county it was, exactly what the breakdown was. And he could tell me that, and we could pinpoint it, really quickly.
So why did it take so long to call then?
So I think what they were looking to do, there was the uncertainty in Pennsylvania in particular. Well, first of all, I should say, a lot of people know this, but just in case, the issue in Pennsylvania was the state law did not allow these mail-in votes to be opened up at all until Election Day. So they're collecting them for weeks ahead of time. They've never had, it's called absentee voting, but it's done by mail. They've never had it on the scale before, anything approaching it. So they have no idea what to do with all these ballots, and they can only let them sit there until Election Day. So that's why it took, a couple of days. I mean, there were counties that decided they weren't even going to open them until the Wednesday morning after the election. Philadelphia was trying to process them the day of the election. They got overwhelmed. So that was the main thing. But then in terms of calling it, from our standpoint, the uncertainty that entered into it in the end was they had a category of vote. This is really, really wonky. I don't know if anybody wants this detail, but they had a category of vote called the provisional ballot. And the provisional ballot pool is typically not that big. It's overwhelmingly Democratic. We can kind of assume that from election to election. Because of a bunch of procedural issues with pandemic voting, it was a much bigger provisional pool than we'd seen before. And there was a potential for a lot more Republican votes to be in there than we'd seen before. So they wanted that Biden lead. They wanted to see that Biden lead get to a certain level where even if the provisional ballots broke, because the provisional ballots aren't counted till like the week after the election, where even if those provisional ballots broke in a hugely, unexpectedly Republican way, Biden would withstand it. And I think what they basically came up with was the standard of 0.5%. If Biden's lead over Trump statewide could hit 0.5%, they would call it. And that's because that's what it hit at 11:30 in the morning Saturday after the election.
That's so cool. I mean, like that's like we do the same things when we're helping, with the simulation and stuff. It's sort of like, when you think about subsetting the space of the universe, right? You're always making assumptions about what matters and what doesn't matter. And what's so cool about what you just said is, in a normal year, we would assume these provisional ballots break a certain way, but you have to, and this is about what modeling and math and all the statistics is it's, making sure that your assumptions are valid, and you guys don't want to make an error based upon an assumption that doesn't apply to 2020. And I think that that's such a reasonable thing to do. And it's interesting. I mean, did you guys think...
Well, the public perception, at least, I think, was a lot that you have to be so sure in this election.
Yeah, it's not that though, right?
I know,
like
but
New
that's
York
what I'm
City,
saying. That's why it's interesting to hear, because I was in DC when the election was happening, and everyone is. I've never seen DC quieter in my entire life, and it was honestly eerie. I flew in, I think it was Thursday night. I expected it to be chaos. It wasn't, and for like 2 straight days, it was just like no one was willing to move. And then people started getting frustrated because of that. They thought, why aren't the networks calling it? They're just afraid.
Yeah. And I think, so in your book, The Red and the Blue, you talk about how you could have this discussion 30 years ago, right? You could lay out the foundations of why you're doing what you're doing. And whether I'm a Democrat or Republican, whether George is liberal or conservative, we could all approach the situation with a fair head. And now, and this is why I think it's so interesting that, you've come to our side, the dark side, right? Which is politics is very team oriented now. It's very much, and there's a guy you write about in your book, Newt Gingrich, who is, I think, the rules of, and we're seeing this, they're crumbling down, but the unwritten rules of politics have made the wheels greasy for years. And the first person who has said, look, the unwritten rules are actually not rules, and I'm going to break them, and I'm going to be the first one to do that. I'm going to benefit from them. And I think about football, and isn't Bill Belichick that guy? Isn't he the guy that said, look, you can't line up a tailback at left tackle and fool the Ravens in a playoff game? Well, of course you can, actually. It's in the rules. Yeah. As long as you run it with the refs and they don't screw you over, you're fine. And it's like there's so many interesting connections there. But I think the connection really does stem from this has become a team game. And you do what you can to win, right? And like the connections are so, like, I think acute now.
So Belichick, Gingrich, are you in favor of that comp?
I'm going to go with no, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, great.
Belichick sustained the success.
Oh, sure. That's a good point.
Newt lasted 3.5 years as speaker, and it was a pretty spectacular fall, and it was real rocky. He had the great moment. He won the Super Bowl in 1994. He got Republicans to the majority in the House, but they put up a bunch of 6 and 10 seasons after
so
that.
You're saying,
so he's Chip Kelly then?
Oh, I was going to say he's Joe Flacco.
So isn't he Chip Kelly? Where Chip Kelly came in and like rewrote football for like a year.
If you're willing to let that be on the NFL level, or if you're willing to let that be on the college level too, because Chip was very short-lived on the NFL level.
Yeah, but he like won 10 games with Mark Sanchez. Like he was.
That is a feat. That you should hang a banner for that. Honestly.
Yeah.
Steve, so you're from Massachusetts. Are you a Pats fan?
Yeah, I duck for cover outside of New England when I admit that to people. But yeah, I mean, I grew up a Patriots fan. I always try to remind people of Patriots. I know the last 20 years we're spoiled. What can I say? But when I grew up, late 80s, early 90s, the Patriots were barely an NFL franchise. May not have even been an NFL franchise. I mean, you couldn't watch the games on local TV. The stadium was 3/4 empty. It was like a glorified high school stadium. They played in the team. When I was, probably 15 years old or something, the team basically almost moved to St. Louis.
That's right.
Almost lost the franchise. So, it's been like, I do think Patriots, look, we're spoiled beyond belief, whatever. And I'm not looking for any sympathy, but I think Pats fans did put in a lot of lean years there before this all happened.
Is it not ironic that you start doing stuff on Sunday Night Football and Football Night in America the year that the Patriots are not going to make the playoffs?
Yeah.
I have said this to quite a few people. It's like the first week I was there, I think it was 13%. It went down to 2% the next week. And I said,
You're the reason.
Yeah.
First time, right? Just in time for the Bills to win the AFC East. You know?
Right. People forget that though. The Dick McPherson years, like they were bad, and they almost moved. Before Robert Kraft bought the team, they were going to move to St. Louis. They were on their way out, and then it was Parcells and Bledsoe basically that just said, "Look, that kind of got the team on the right track." They played the Super Bowl against the Packers, and I think people forget that like a Patriots fan had not only heartbreak but also irrelevance at times. The heartbreak being the Super Bowl in '85 and '96, but also that period of time when they couldn't win a game, and the Bills were not only winning all the time, but going to all the Super Bowls, and it's a far cry from what's happening lately.
I wanted to ask, who do you think the political comparison would be then for Belichick? And since you don't think it's Newt, and what about Brady?
Well, Brady, longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Look. Let's see how the rest of the year goes for Tampa. I know it's. I don't think you're expecting them to win the Super Bowl at this point, but if they made a run in the playoffs, I think you could make a Brady Biden comparison.
Wow.
Because there's Biden at 78 winning the presidency, right?
Yeah.
This is 10 years older than anybody else who's ever won it.
Yeah.
What if Brady? I could kind of see. He's been at the game so long. For Belichick. The one I would give you is Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But he had his fans. He got elected, but people. This is in the book.
You wrote about this.
In the blue.
How he. Yeah.
If you were on the right, you hated Bill Clinton, and he lies through his teeth. He never tells the truth. Clintonian. But he was good at the game. He was a natural, and he kept winning. They couldn't beat him. They couldn't beat him in '92. They couldn't beat him in '96. They took the House in '94. They thought they had him then. That didn't work. They tried to impeach him. They did impeach him, but they couldn't beat Bill Clinton. I think it drove the people who didn't like Bill Clinton crazy. And I see a lot of that with Belichick.
Well, and then when Al Gore tried to do it on his own, he sort of wasn't quite good enough, right? Like that might be the Brady sort of moving to Tampa Bay. And
so you had one for Reagan that I thought was interesting. I would have said Reagan and Brady kind of similar for the age thing as well, but the continued winning. I really like the Biden one. It's obviously more relevant.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
What about, so here's the one we were arguing over. I said that Mahomes and Obama would be the two that I would compare. And my reasoning being that Obama changed the landscape of politics and the presidency forever. And I think Mahomes is doing that at the quarterback position.
And I said Aaron Rodgers because I think both started out really hot. But if you sort of look at, like, Rodgers only won one Super Bowl, like Obama's accomplishments are not necessarily all that impressive compared to how he started. I sort of think of them as the same, but I could be wrong. I don't know. You're the expert. Let's hear it.
I like the Mahomes one on that. I think there's a I'm not trying to diss Rodgers, but I think there's a charisma and kind of a fun likability factor that Mahomes has going for him that I think Obama had going for him in politics too.
So I had Mahomes compared to Ronald Reagan, and this was my comparison. It was that Reagan lost how many states in like the two elections, like 3 or 4?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like Mahomes has never had a bad game in his whole life. Reagan had never had a bad state. He beat the Chiefs this year 48-22 against their road opponent. The road opponents that they've beaten are 48-20. Like Reagan won California and New York as a Republican, although that was more likely back then. But like that was kind of like my take was that Reagan was just a flat out winner the way that Mahomes kind of is.
I have one more. This is my favorite one. Greg Williams and Steve Bannon.
I said Rudy Giuliani, by the way, which I do think Rudy Giuliani has done more to tank anything than Greg did.
Greg wasn't trying to tank. That's the beautiful thing. He wasn't even trying to tank.
Yeah.
I go way back in time. I don't know if anyone will get the reference, but Lee Atwater would be my Greg Williams. He was the dark arts political
Wow.
consultant of the '80s, and
That is a good one. That is a good one. That was, I still remember the Atwater question. There was an Atwater question on my AP US history
Gotcha.
test. That's the extent of what I know. It's not much. Let's talk a little football here, because I know that most people ask you questions about the election stuff, and we're a football podcast. So let's chop it up a little bit. You've now had a few weeks to dive in like really deeply. Were you following the season? I mean, because you'd had the election, like that obviously took all of your time. I'm guessing you tried to maybe sleep for 10 hours afterwards, or maybe 8, I don't know. Did you have any clue what was going on this season? Did you have to like do a crash course? What's your general way of consuming NFL football, and how has it changed?
yeah, look, I've always been a fan. This year in particular, I think between the election and the pandemic, I think, I wasn't. The season kind of snuck up on me, where all sports this spring and this summer, I just kind of put out of my mind. I used to watch a ton of college football. I really haven't watched much of this year. I know there's a bowl game on as I speak right now, but
yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of it. College really hasn't felt the same. The NFL though, like once the season started, I found myself on a Sunday. I was home, and where else are you going to be these days? I was home, and I actually, it surprised me that first week that as long as they didn't have the wide shot where you could see the tens of thousands of empty seats, I was kind of buying it more than I thought I was going to. That okay, this feels a little more normal than I thought it would. Not totally, but more than I thought it would. So I got a little bit more kind of into it like I normally would. But the big change for me from what I've been doing the last few weeks with you guys is just the way I watch Sunday afternoons. I'm going there to NBC in Stamford, Connecticut. They got a room with every game on. And I find myself like I have a chart in front of me with the playoff probabilities coming into the day, and I'm playing with, okay, at this given moment, the Jets are up on the Rams, the Cardinals are losing it. What is this going to do to the playoff? And I'm trying to like imagine and project those numbers moving based on how the games move. And it's been a really interesting thing to see. And I've never watched football with like playoff and win probabilities in mind like that before.
Yeah, we remarked, I think, like last week when we were talking about, because we do a show, I mean, we talk about which games we like to bet on and which games, we're really looking forward to. For us, it's very independent, right? Like we generally we'll look at a game and we like this game, we'll bet on this game or something like that, and that's what we're looking for. But you're right. I mean, now, I'm like, I just remember remarking to George, I'm like, I understand what's going to happen this week so much better because I'm trying to permute in my head what's going on so that we give, you guys great information, but also just so that we're anticipating things. Like that first week that we were working with you, I want to say in the 1 o'clock hour, there were like 3 10-point favorites that were all losing at halftime. And I'm like, what the heck? Like everything we expect, and then they all came back and won. But then the Giants beat the Seahawks in the 4 o'clock hour. It's like, okay, like it's not actually going to work the way it's supposed to. And it's fun to view it, I think, in the global sense, because I don't know if we do that enough.
No, I agree. What do you think? So what's having now watched all of these games very closely? You're trying to predict. Look forward. Let's look forward to the playoffs. Who are some of the teams that you think have a chance maybe to compete with the Chiefs, either in the AFC or to come out of the NFC? Who's impressed you so far?
Yeah, I think the overall answer to that is the one that's impressed me the most is Green Bay. And over the course of the season, I mean, Rodgers is just having obviously an incredible season. You could have the whole MVP debate there, but I think Green Bay is better than I would have thought. They seem a much more complete team. Rodgers is having a phenomenal year, and I could imagine Green Bay. Green Bay, Kansas City. Talk about a Super Bowl from the old days. That'd be kind of fun, and I could kind of see. I could see that. Baltimore. Baltimore is the interesting one to me because I know you guys have had them for very understandable reasons. Their playoff probability, so high just because they're playing well and their schedule is so easy. And I am. Part of me is starting to play with the scenario where like Miami just keeps winning too, and Baltimore somehow gets blocked. Despite being 11-5, despite doing everything they were supposed to do. But if they do get in, I'd say Baltimore and, look, Buffalo Buffalo has just looked dominant lately, and Josh Allen, somebody I've had in my mind, I've just completely kind of reassessed as a player this year.
Same.
And I don't know. I guess, am I naming like every team here? The other
No.
one is Cleveland, but Cleveland's. This is where we, looking at the playoff scenarios every week. It's like what I see with Cleveland is, okay, they could pass Pittsburgh and win the division, or they could get left out at 11-5.
When we started talking, we started doing this whole thing. Pittsburgh was still undefeated, right?
Yeah.
I think it was right after the Wednesday.
Yeah.
That Wednesday game, and they just barely beaten that incredible Baltimore match.
Well, there was that game where you guys had Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and it was like going into that game, if Pittsburgh wins, the one seed's a coin flip, and then if they lose, it's like 95-5. And it's like, we've seen exactly why that's the case, because Pittsburgh's actually weak, and Kansas City, they just keep winning, if not maybe unspectacularly. What you're saying about Baltimore is great, and this again brings us back to your election experience, which is, our assumptions might have to change a little bit, right? Because if I'm an AFC team with one of the top seeds, I want to play Miami. I don't want to play. And if I'm Buffalo, I don't want to play Lamar Jackson, right? What I want to anytime in the playoffs. So let's say Buffalo secures the 2 seed. Let's see Indy wins, Buffalo wins, and they're in line for the 2 seed. I lay down for Miami in week 17, right? Because I want to see Miami in the playoffs. I want to see Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, and the Ravens clear out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. Although, I mean, everyone's gonna. The interesting thing about saying the Ravens are a sneaky team is that last year, and the narrative coming into this year, is that Lamar Jackson can't win a playoff game.
But isn't that always the case? Like Kansas City, I always feel like there's this like second year effect. So Kansas City was the team no one wanted to face in 2018. They had explosive offense. They were the most impressive team in football. They get the 1 seed, and they fail in the playoffs. And in 2019, they start 6-4. Quarterback gets hurt. Defense sucks. The Ravens are the toast of the town. Yada yada yada. And we get to week 17. The Pats lose to the Dolphins. They get the 2 seed, and we're all like, "Holy shit! Kansas City could win the Super Bowl."
Yeah.
And I think that could be true about not necessarily the Ravens being in a great spot like Kansas City, but the Ravens coming into the playoffs being finally the team we thought they were all year.
Steve, would Buffalo making it to, say, the Super Bowl, would that just be, how painful would that be for you?
I mean, it's like I've told people I was telling you earlier, I was a Pats fan in the lean days. My favorite player back then and all time was Doug Flutie. And Doug Flutie had a brief run there. Well, he ended up coming back to the Pats at the very end of his career, but in the late 80s, he had a brief run with the Patriots. And not at all the era where a quarterback like Doug Flutie could succeed in the NFL. And then a decade later, he came back from Canada and went to the Bills. And I mean, you know the story. Yeah. He gets the Bills to the playoffs, and they bench him for Rob Johnson. And I never got over that. I've never gotten over what the Bills franchise did to him. So the combination of the Pats having the year they've had, and it being the Bills that benched Doug Flutie for Rob Johnson in a playoff game.
Man,
I feel for the Bills fans. Those are loyal fans. They're great fans. I like the city of Buffalo, but I still nurse a grudge for what the organization did.
Well, the Music City Miracle is one of the most justice-ridden plays in the history of football. Like that, they deserved it for benching Flutie for a guy that was a classic underdog story, right? It's like.
It's like a movie.
They gave Johnson all the money, and then he stunk, and they sat him for Flutie. Flutie does amazingly, and they literally pulled a fast one on Flutie. It was week 17. They benched him like they were just benching their starter, like Andy Reid starting Chad Henne over Mahomes, right? And it's like, and then they're like, and then Wade Phillips is like, no, we're actually going to start this big goofy tall guy here in the game, and then the funny thing is he had a game-winning drive. They drove down and scored a field goal, and then the Music City Miracle.
So what do you want the Pats to do? I'm going to give you a chance to sit with Bill Belichick and advise him here. What the path forward for your Patriots to return to glory is what?
I want Jimmy G back.
Oh.
And look, I know there's some injury questions now, but in my mind, if they could get him back, and it seems like San Fran might be okay with that, it'll work. It'll work. And it's sort of how it was supposed to be, because I think you guys probably have a better set. The impression certainly that I have, and I think most Pats fans have, is that Belichick wanted to stick with him anyway. And then it was Kraft who wanted Brady to stick around for a few more years. Then Brady's gone, and now look what you got.
Yep.
And it seems to me there's a possibility he's available. I'd say do that.
You two are fast friends now.
So
Look at
I'm a Niners fan, and I love Jimmy G. And I'm torn. I'm really
part
torn
of it's
here.
part of it's his play on the field. Part of it's his play off the field.
I love everything about Jimmy G. There's nothing I don't love about Jimmy G. I love the way he plays, the way he leads, the whole thing. But I'm torn because I'm not sure he can be an elite quarterback. And so I want him more than anything else to come back from the ankle injury and have like the greatest Week 17 game ever and make it back. But
well, let's ask a common Pat's question to Steve. So, because there was never a time in the last 25 years where Tom Brady was the most talented quarterback in the NFL. There were times when he was the best, but never a time when he was the most talented. If you project some of that, right? Garoppolo's not untalented. We've seen what he can do in a certain situation.
Yeah.
Put him in New England. Now, what is the pie? The 6 Super Bowl wins. How many of that are you attributing to Belichick?
Yes.
How many of that are you attributing to Brady? Like the pie chart of
the
praise.
blame pie.
Pie chart of praise.
Well, look, the thing that always jumped out to me in that era was the year Brady didn't play, 2008. Matt Castle, right?
Legend.
Now, they didn't make the playoffs. They went 11-5 with Matt Castle, right? Brady goes down the first week, and everybody thinks this is going to be a 6-10 season. And what did Matt Castle do after he left? So I always thought, and that's why I was actually more optimistic this year when Cam Newton came in. Now, look, looks like there's all sorts of problems with Newton. Who knows? But I thought Belichick was going to get more out of him. I thought this was going to work better than it did, because in my mind, I remember what happened with Matt Castle. So I think there was a synergistic thing. There was a Belichick Brady combination there. But I don't think Belichick has to have Brady, because I do remember 2008.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah, that got at Castle a huge deal with my Chiefs. And
It
that
did.
didn't work out all that well. There's a great
He also had the whole like the pedigree thing. Like people were willing to bet that Matt Castle was going to be good since the day.
There was a
started.
great quote in the book, Hard Things About Hard Things. And it talks about how working relationships that don't have any friction don't last. Either you're not, because I don't think they got along that well, did they? Like Brady and Belichick?
I don't have any reason to believe that. Do you, Steve?
It's the impression I got is it changed in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it might have been around the time that, was Belichick resentful that the decision was made to stay with Brady and get rid of Garoppolo? Okay. Did Brady finally get sick of Belichick just, being Belichick, at practice? I got the impression that in the last 2 years of it, I would say, it changed, and by the end they were both ready to be done with each other, but not before that.
Okay, because so before
most
that
of the time it worked.
So then my theory is bunk, but yeah, I do think that having like two different guys who are both brilliant, who rub each other a little bit the wrong way, I think does create a decent amount of just what you need to be hugely successful. And that might be the reason why no one's ever lasted on that team other than Brady, because everybody gets into a situation where they're like content winning tons of Super Bowls. Yeah. Who wouldn't be? And eventually they like lose their edge a little bit, and Brady trades Richard Seymour to the Raiders, or
I wonder if
Logan Mankins to the Bucks or something.
I wonder if that's what Jimmy G needs. So Jimmy G needs to be turned away from the Niners. He needs the giant chip on his shoulder that Brady got for basically being like thought of as worse than, was it Chad Hansen or whoever it was at Michigan, right? Yeah. And like and then being the 199th pick, like that I think carried him so long. Jimmy needs a kick in the ass, and maybe this is it. And Steve will get his Patriots back.
Well, that's an awesome take, because we have not heard.
I've not heard that one.
Yeah,
yet.
that one's a really good one.
I've heard tank for Trevor. I've heard sign Sam Darnold. Not Jimmy G.
And if I'm a Pats fan, I want none of those situations. Like,
well, they can't get Trevor now.
Yeah, they can't get none of those are attainable. The thing about Newton that was hard was that he was good enough to win 6-7 games. The Stidham thing made sense because they would probably be in the position the Jets are in if they started Stidham the whole year. But the Cam thing kind of put them in this purgatory. Maybe they will go after somebody in that sort of 10 to 19 range of quarterbacks. And if McDaniel stays, that might be a good formula.
I have some quick hitters for you, Steve, before we get you out of here. First one.
Sure.
I wore the closest thing I had to khakis today, in your honor. What's the story behind the khakis?
I wish I had a good one. I'd say I'm mystified by some of the stuff that's happened since the election. I mean, that's the top of my list. I mean, this is the most boring thing. What do they say? Like, companies want to lock in customers when they're 20 years old or whatever, because then they kind of get them for life. I think that's the theory. It's true with me. I just probably when I was in college, I would go to the Gap, every couple months, and I was, time for new pants, and I would get a pair of khakis, and I just never stopped doing it. So, I wear them, and, we get to election week. Of course, it's like this building. I'm in 30 Rock right now. It's kind of empty. There's not a lot of adult supervision. So I'm kind of sitting in my office, and it's like, we got to go on the air for the election. So I put the shirt and tie on, and, they give me a little, I don't even know what I'm doing with it. There's a little makeup they left on my desk. I try to just dab it all over my face, and I go up there. And 2 days later, I have friends sending me articles about my pants. You tell me. I have no idea.
So
that's amazing.
So I have a pitch for you, because I was thinking about, the meteoric rise. What are you going to do next? The Kornacki khaki. You're welcome.
I mean, hey, listen, if I can make a buck off it, I'll take it.
I want some.
You want a finder's fee, don't you?
I just want a little bit of investors finder's fee. I want to be on the floor investor, but I think we could find someone to start that up. I don't have a manufacturing plant, but I'm sure we could find one. Did you actually stay up for 48 straight hours? How did you do it? If you did, where did you get the Adderall from? I don't know how that happened.
It was, I did sleep some that week. I didn't,
Okay.
I think I probably got 4 or 5 hours for the week. I stayed up all night Tuesday through the night, election night itself. And then again, I slept a little Wednesday into Thursday. And then we got to I'd say it was 11 o'clock on Thursday night. And Biden was getting close to catching Trump in Pennsylvania. And we have these cameras from some of the county vote counting sites, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And when I'm looking at them counting the ballots, and I'm saying to myself, I think Biden is going to catch Trump overnight, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, something. And I'm saying to myself, I think if enough votes come in, our decision desk may call it at 3 or 4 a.m. And I'm not missing that.
No.
Because everybody, my boss is going home, and he's like, "You want to stay, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I think it's going to happen overnight." He said, "All right, you stay, you do it." So they had somebody who was going to come in to relieve me. I said, "I'm sorry, I'm actually going to do this." I get out there, and probably about 30 minutes after I'm back on air, I look down at my monitor, and all the vote counting sites, the lights are now off. And I said, "Oh boy, I screwed this one up." So I was there overnight.
Kornacki's backup quarterback would put his helmet on, and he went all Peyton Manning and said, "Get off the field,"
and then everyone else went home.
And that's what I got for it,
Jim Sorgi was ready.
Jim Sorgi wanted to come on the field.
Oh, that's incredible.
He wanted to take the final kneel down. When Biden finally won, he wanted to take the knee.
So was it coffee? How many cups of coffee did you drink?
I just did Diet Coke.
Wow.
I just endless supply of cans of Diet Coke. And, I was right behind the board. If you're looking at it on TV, literally right behind it, I had a chair and a table. And in those last couple of days when it was, 30 minutes, an hour between getting vote updates, I would go and sit there for a few minutes. And the minute I sit down, if I didn't have somebody right next to me, I would have fallen asleep right away. But it was the minute we got an update, I'd go right back to the front of it. And I think it was like an adrenaline thing or something. I could feel it. My energy came back. I could do it for a few minutes. And, I got out of there at 11:30 that Saturday. I didn't actually, it was the Breeders' Cup day. So I wanted to go watch a little of the Breeders' Cup. But 6:45, I'd say that night, I fell asleep at home, and I woke up at 10:30 the next morning. So that was the longest I'd ever gone.
So is that what you did as soon as the election was over? You went and watched horse racing?
Yeah, I had a nice winner in the first race.
There you go.
See, what a perfect fit for the show.
We need to have you on this show more.
Oh, that's great.
That is awesome. That's great. That was going to be one of my questions. I have another idea. I'm just here pitching ideas, right? What else can we use? The magic, I don't know what they call it, the magic board, what else can we predict on a map of the United States? I don't know if you've thought of this. I don't know if people have pitched you other ideas. Are there any that come to mind for you?
Well, the one they had me do for the Today Show, like a week later, was they did a poll of the favorite Thanksgiving dish by state. So we used the same, interface, and Wyoming, they like their cranberry sauce. South Carolina, it's the pumpkin pie. So we did that.
Wow.
No, I think it's, and it's there. You notice those things like that are really popular, like on social media. The like favorite thing by state, favorite song, favorite sport, favorite, whatever, favorite search term. You see those maps all the time, and they get passed around a lot. I think there is a lot of fascination with like the 50 state map and that sort of thing. But no, hey, I'm open to ideas there because I have one that
I have one that I think Eric and you will love. The MVP voting in the NFL sucks. I want everyone to start voting for the MVP in week 4. And I want it to be a live thing that happens like every Tuesday. And the votes come in and we can light them up wherever they are.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And we just have you up there and you're reporting on it, and we're looking at quarterback X and Y and Z and where they were week 4 and where they are now and who's flipped and what, like who needs what. Like, I think that'd be awesome.
Is there an electoral college for this, or are we doing a straight national popular vote?
That would be very interesting.
What I think would be cool is like an off-season thing where like you go in and say, what would the NFL standings look like if it was like popular vote versus the division because it's basically the same thing that you're dealing with. Whereas like, so like there's no way, the NFC East is like the Trump of the like, electoral map, right? Where it's like no way he'd win. But since there's
in so many ways.
Yeah. But like they're 4 million or many million in the popular vote that they lost by. And it's like, in this case, it never mattered. In this case, it mattered. It'd be kind of fun.
That's a great idea. This was awesome. What's next for you? What's after football's over? Do you have? Are you just going out as the Kornacki khaki? Something that can,
It's a good question. I mean, well, I'll do it. Look, here's my plug for our news side. January 5th, control of the U.S. Senate coming down to one state, 2 races. Georgia will be live, from 6:45 on that night, as long as it takes. And if November's any indication, it could take 4 days in Georgia. So that's my next big political project. And then, we'll see. We'll see after that. I've been talking through a bunch of different ideas and don't have a firm answer yet, but I got a few things in the works maybe.
Well, you're welcome to break it on this podcast whenever you do, have that news. We're just looking for a little slice. No, I'm kidding.
Well, if the pants thing happens, I think now it's on record, so I have to give this a cut. But.
There we go.
No, I'm looking forward to that election. It'll be a lot of fun, and there's an interesting like the probability problem too, right? Because one side needs both, right? Where the other side only needs one, and so it's kind of a fun like if and kind of situation.
Yeah, we'd have to be careful.
And it's also
go ahead. No, it's all you.
I was just gonna say Georgia is a great example of what you were talking about before, that parallel to like the football where you've got the votes that come in the first few hours are probably going to be very Republican because it's the Democratic area, Atlanta area that comes in late. So you might have that. If the Democrats win, it's probably one of those delayed things that you don't see immediately.
Well, we will be tuned in. I was going to say the only problem with the Kornacki khaki is that if we had it on NBC, the NFL would like make us not promote the Kornacki khaki because they need a cut from everything. Yeah.
They would make you call your own pants the khaki.
Yeah, exactly. The league khaki. Steve, this was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you, man. And we'll be watching you on Sunday.
Well, I'll be working with you on Sunday. I really appreciate this was fun, and it's been great working with you. I look forward to another week of it.
Thanks, Steve. I don't know how we top this show, to be honest with you. We'll work really hard to get some good guests for next week. I actually do have some good ideas. I'll tell you one of my ideas. We're talking to our buddy Evan Silva, and we're thinking a wild card palooza would be fun, like we did during the summer. We get Hermsmeyer in here, we get Kev, we get Timo, get Evan.
How we got here sort of situation. How cool would that be?
And the best part about the wild card is there's like a million ways to bet it. There's so many. Oh, it's beautiful.
Here's another one that I like. Just got hired today. At University of Arizona. Our friend Jed Fish. I think we got to go Jed.
We got to get Jed Fish on the podcast.
Do we?
I'm sending him an email right now.
Yeah.
Jed Fish. I can't tell the story.
Look,
here's what I will
you two are fast. Like here's what I'm going to tell you. We're fast friends.
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
I want to say you and Jed were even faster friends.
I'm going to tell this story in a way that I think I can tell it. We're at the combine. Jed Fish is in a meeting. He's currently working for the Rams, and it's like 5 p.m. So everyone is tired. We've been through meetings. He comes in. He's got like a bunch of candy, and just munching on sugar. And he's got energy for days. This dude is ready to rock. And there's a loud thump in the floor above us. And Jed Fish had a one-line joke that I melted. It was the most perfect joke.
You were in love.
I'm not going to tell you. You can guess what it was.
Yeah.
If you listen to this podcast a lot, you might know. But Jed Fish is awesome. And he's let's get Jed Fish on the podcast. Okay, that's it. Merry Christmas. We love you all. Hosanna in the highest.
The next podcast will still be 2020, but thank you all for joining us for this year. It's been a weird year, but thanks for following along.
We're gonna fucking
2 more.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sunday night.
Yeah.
Holy Jesus. Okay. Love y'all.